A few days ago, we released a video about progress with the mark of the beast in Kenya and China. If you haven't already watched that video, please do so, and then come back to watch this one. Almost immediately after the release, the government in Kenya publicly denied that the Huduma card is in any way related to the infamous mark of the beast. Ironically, they did so at the same time that they announced that the entire population will not be able to do any sort of business through the government without it when it has been fully implemented. This is hardly the kind of evidence that one would expect to support such a flat denial. In addition to that, the government announced that its promised one-month census, in which they planned to enroll citizens through a door-to-door campaign, was now being shortened to a 5-day pilot test of public reaction before they proceed further. All of this is significant to understand something that has been going on for decades with regard to each step towards implementing the mark of the beast. Governments around the world know about Bible prophecy, which says that God's undiluted wrath will be poured on anyone who accepts the mark. They also know that the Bible says that the masses of the world will eventually not be able to buy or sell without having that mark. A situation which will have devastating effects on the lifestyle that so many of the world's professing Christians have enjoyed for centuries. So, over and over again, various steps moving us closer to the implementation of the mark have been used as tests to gauge how much resistance the general public will make against something that is so obviously exactly what the Bible predicted 2,000 years ago. Note that the Bible predicted that this mark will be placed in the right hand or in the forehead of everyone on earth, except of course the relatively tiny band of Christians who have enough faith to face life without it. Being without the mark means that you will not be able to do any business. Cash will be totally eliminated by that time, and the mark will be your only way of doing any business. So we Christians will be forced to live by faith, the way that Jesus and his disciples did, and the way that he has been calling on all his disciples to do ever since, even before the mark was conceived of. In those countries where there has been an outcry from professing Christians who still believe the prophecy, governments have eased back and worked on more subtle changes, but with all of them getting closer and closer to the real thing. There has been, for example, more and more use of the body itself for identification and more use of RFID chips for doing business. That's why we personally have taken to not even using a card with a chip in it when doing any business transactions. But the Huduma card in Kenya represents the closest that any government has so far come to the actual mark, even though the RFID chip, at this stage at least, is still in the card and not in your hand. Nevertheless, official promotions for the card indicate that it could be eventually replaced by some form of biometric identification, either in the hand or on the face. The good news at this stage is that already the Kenyan government is starting to back away from what it originally announced. And there is a hint that if the 5-day trial results in too much resistance from the public, they will try something different. However, even if they do decide to scrap their plans, as a number of other countries have done in recent years, they will not stop what they and other governments are planning to do eventually. We, the general public, will only have slightly delayed the inevitable. But at least it does give us a little more time to work out how we are going to survive under such restrictions, including restrictions that are already in place with regard to using various cards with RFID chips in them for such things as internet shopping, for example. So please do continue to share the warning message about what is happening in Kenya and also in China in order to make the world aware of the choice that awaits us. There is no guarantee that everyone will be warned, especially if God knows that we would not act on such a warning anyway. But through our combined voice, we may be able to get the media to continue warning the public in its own limited way, thus giving others a little more time to discover faith that is strong enough to survive without the mark. So please thumbs up this video and share it through social media so that it will reach many others now while there is still time for us to communicate through the internet. And do write to us if you are prepared to practice living without working for money even now. We are a small group of Christians who have all stopped working for money. Instead, we have dedicated our lives to calling on the whole world to live by faith in obedience to Jesus. Our address is on screen now. Please write it down and contact us today, letting us know where you live so that we can put you in touch with others who are also engaged in this great experiment of obedience to the teachings of Jesus. Thank you for listening.